Hi, I'm Hannah.
And I'm Shay, and we're Dinner National.
Today we're making Brazilian food.
Brazil is the largest country in South America and Latin America, containing over 3 million square miles of land, much of which is made up of the Amazon rainforest. The cuisine of Brazil reflects the indigenous and immigrant populations which inhabit this vast country. For example, in the southern region of Brazil, you will see more of an Italian or German influence mixed in with other South American ingredients, whereas in the north or northeast, you'll find more indigenous and African influence, as evidenced by the use of ingredients like fish or cassava. There's a lot more going on here than what I'll explain in this video, but essentially what people eat and how they eat it varies across this culturally diverse nation. Today, we're making feijoada, a meat-heavy dish consisting of pork and sometimes beef, as well as black beans. But wait, there's more! Feijoada is served with rice and cassava, and sometimes with collard greens and oranges as well. Though there are many different variations to this dish, we are preparing it with all 4 sides today. We are also making an appetizer, which is classically Brazilian, Pao de Quiejo, a cheese bread ball made with cassava flour and baked to spherical perfection.
Let's get started. Let's make some feijoada. This is one of my favorite dishes. It combines 2 of my favorite things, that is pork and beans. What's not to like, eh? This dish had very humble beginnings. Most traditionally, the feijoada was made with the refuse coming from the pigs. So that is like the trimmings, like the tail, the ears, the snout, and things like that. We don't have any of those authentic ingredients today, but then we have our standard supermarket cuts of pork. The beef is also traditional in some varieties. So we're just gonna keep this simple. These are black beans that I soaked up overnight. This was about 1.5 cups to begin with, but now it looks like it's almost tripled in size. Talk about value for money, eh? If you just remember to soak these overnight, you have a cheap and economical meal, which is like super tasty. I'm just gonna cover these black beans with water. All we need to add over here is some salt, and the most important, bay leaf. So this dish is quite low on spices, so make sure that the spices that you do use are really good quality and not just forgotten in the back of your cupboard. So I'm just gonna boil this with a little bit of salt. Maybe like a tablespoon or so, you can always adjust this. This is gonna take a while, so I'll just move this to the back burner while the beans cook and proceed with the rest of the pork. So while my beans are cooking, I'm not gonna sit around, right? Like I said earlier, I mean, offcuts used to be used for a dish like this, but what we have over here is a deluxe feijoada. So we have about a little over 1 pound of bacon, about half a pound of sausage, and some rib meat. So this is gonna be really awesome. I've got this heavy cast iron pot heating up. If you have one of those nice traditional clay pots, use that to make your feijoada because that's more traditional. I don't have access to one of those, so I'm just gonna use my trusty cast iron. So in goes the bacon. This is some nice fatty bacon that I chopped into like thin strips. I'm just going in bacon first so that the fat renders out a little bit, and so I can use the rest of that fat to fry up my other ingredients. So when we have a dish with this few ingredients and not a lot of spices, you have to get your basics right. I think I've told you this before, I love bacon. So I'm just gonna keep sauteing this to make sure that nothing's burning. We do want a little bit of that fond. We encourage the fondification process. This recipe actually reminds me of the Romanian topitura, simply because it has like 3 different kinds of pork in it. I still have like pleasant dreams about that dish, so I have like very strong hopes from this one. This is like one of those dishes that I keep going back to. The cafeteria at my work actually serves a brilliant feijoada. I cannot wait to eat this. So looks like my beans are boiling. I'm just gonna quickly skim the scum off of the top.
Skim the scum, skim the scum.
Skim the scum, skim the scum. I don't know what this does. If I understand correctly, it just ensures that you have like a really clear broth and you don't have like any of those goopy discolorations. This is not a mandatory step, but then I highly encourage it. See how much fat has rendered out? Now I'm gonna pull the bacon out. I'm using this sieve so that I'm not getting all the fat in there. Now it's time for our optional step, which is searing the sausage and searing the pork. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that one at a time. I'm putting all of these in one layer so that I can get a nice amount of sear on it. See how much fat we got from that meat? That's a lot. So this is a good time for us to fry up our onions and our garlic. So I'll keep sauteing the onions and make sure that most of the fond gets deglazed. The onion will release some of its juice and that will help deglaze the base. This smells amazing. So we don't need to brown these onions, but then we'll just let these soften for like about 2 to 3 minutes. So now would be a good time to check on your beans, and if it looks like it's out of water, maybe just top it off a little bit and check if your beans are cooked. So my beans are kind of cooked, but then it's not soft enough. So I'll just let it keep going for like about 30 more minutes. Tasty beans. This would be a good time to add the garlic. This is half a head of garlic. This is quite a garlic heavy dish, but we like garlic. Just give this a good stir. We don't want the garlic to burn, so we'll just give it about 30 seconds and then add our tomato. This is half a can of tomatoes, so like about 14 ounces. I'll just let the tomatoes cook for a bit, top it off with a little bit water, and let this stew cook. So our tomatoes and garlic and onions have been stewing for about 10 minutes and it's just beautiful. This is the perfect time to reintroduce our beans along with the water from the beans. I have been careful not to salt it too much so far because remember all the salty ingredients that are gonna go back in this. Like there's our bacon and there's our sausage. So we're just gonna go easy on the salt for now. Our beans are completely done. They're nice and soft. This smells really good. So this is a good time to reintroduce my meat now that my beans have been cooked. I'm just gonna nestle these pieces in there. I'm super excited about this dish. I've never had a bad feijoada in my life. Sausages go in. I'll just sprinkle everything evenly. It's such a beautiful dish. And I'll put the lid back on and let it cook for another 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay, we're gonna do a traditional side that is served with feijoada. Usually it is a collard green that's served, but we looked around, we couldn't find that anywhere. We've had this problem before. We ended up getting kale, so we're gonna do that. What I have here is some bacon grease from the bacon Shay cooked earlier. It's melting over medium heat. This is a really simple dish. I'm gonna toss in half of a small yellow onion, not too much, and cook this just for 5 minutes till it's soft. I'm going to add 2 cloves of garlic that I've minced up. Stir that in. Smells so nice. And now I'm going to add this bushel of fluffy kale that we've rinsed and taken the stem out of. I'm just gonna toss this in. It shouldn't take too long at all. Just soften it a little bit and serve this on the side of your feijoada.
All right, this thing smells amazing. So while you guys were not looking, I chopped up some cilantro and parsley real fine for the garnish and also put some rice. You know how to cook rice, so I'm not gonna show you how. Whoa! Let me bathe in that steam. All right, okay, I guess this is ready to eat, so I'm gonna switch it off and top it up with some cilantro and parsley. And my favorite, bacon. I'm just gonna sprinkle it all in. Give everything a nice stir. This looks beautiful. I cannot even wait until I prepare the farofa. I just want to dive in right away. Farofa and feijoada, it's like, you know, a match made in heaven. You shouldn't ideally do one without the other. So I'm gonna go and quickly make that. All right. This is our crunchy topping, which is like a luxury garnish for your feijoada. So this is cassava flour. This is a different kind of cassava flour as compared to the one that Hannah used in order to make the bread. If you don't have this, maybe you can try using breadcrumbs. We decided to stick with the original because we could find it, but you know, the idea is that you're just garnishing your feijoada with something nice and crunchy. So I have like a little bit of bacon grease in here, about 1 tablespoon melting. I just decided to omit the bacon in this step because there's bacon in everything else. Not that I have anything against bacon, but yeah, bacon grease will impart the flavor and it's gonna mix together anyway. So I have 2 cloves of garlic that I'm gonna quickly saute up in this bacon grease. So fancy, Brazil. The garlic is nice and fragrant, so this is a good time for you to add your flour. I'm just gonna saute this real quick and toast it, get it nice and browny. Did I say nice and browny? So I'll just kind of saute this for like about 5 to 6 minutes until it gets like a little bit of color.
Okay, so we're gonna make a Brazilian classic. It's Pao de Quiejo, which is a cheesy bread ball. You've probably seen it around if you're from Brazil. All right, so the first step is we're gonna boil the milk and the oil. This is 1 cup of whole milk. Oh, this should be on? Shoot. And this is 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. So just bring this to a boil and then turn off the heat. All right, so our milk is boiling and we're going to mix our pao dough. The cool thing about these cheese balls is that they're gluten-free. This is cassava flour or tapioca flour, and yeah, no gluten in there. So I'm gonna add that to our mixing bowl. Oh. There's gotta be a better way. This is 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 1 egg and our hot milk mixture. All right, so before you add your cheese, you're gonna wanna mix this together. Lower, medium speed. All right, it's looking nice and creamy. I'm gonna mix in the cheese. I'm using 1 cup of mozzarella cheese. Use a ball of mozzarella, grate it yourself. You need some nice cheese for these balls. And we're also going to use 1/2 cup of Parmesan Reggiano. Give it a mix. Now we need to form our little bread balls. So I'm gonna take some of the dough. It's very, very sticky. That's how it's supposed to be. And I'm just gonna kind of scoop off a decent size. You're gonna wanna get about 3 tablespoons and plop it into this muffin tin. Ideally, you would use a mini muffin tin. This is what we have. You can also just use a baking sheet if you don't have one. This just kind of helps form it as it fluffs up. All right, I've formed all of my dough balls here, and this I did not see in any of the recipes, but I think it'd be kind of nice. I'm just going to grate a small amount of Parmesan on top of each of the buns. This will just add a little pop of color. I'm going to put these in the oven at 325 for about 30 minutes, but just maybe check after 20, depending on your oven. Oh, wow. So nice. Woo-hoo. Oh, wow.
It smells incredible.
It's so cheesy. You see that?
Really want to bite of that.
Ooh, and it's so crispy on the outside.
Yeah, this thing has been a real winner for me, the Pao. Oh my goodness.
Amazing.
Oh, sorry, maybe it might be a little too big.
Yeah.
I just so enjoy this cheesy, you know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just better than bread for me.
Yeah, it's kind of chewy. It's not like a normal dinner roll or something. It's very good.
I totally foresee myself making a bigger batch and freezing this because apparently this freezes really well. Just pull it out of the freezer, defrost it, thaw it really quick. I mean, it's a ready snack. Yeah. And it's gluten-free.
Let's try the main,
let's
main
do it.
guy. You want a little sausage in there too?
Go for it. I'm still working on the Pao. Feijoada is truly one of my favorite stews. I mean, it's like one of those dishes that, you know, it has just so many perfect components to it. It's got a little bit of crispiness, a little bit of tart, a little bit of meat, a little bit of beans. I mean, it's just so delicious.
And it's meant to be paired with the orange and the kale or collard greens and rice. And we have a little salsa crudo here, which adds some brightness.
It's really perfect.
It's really good.